Hi everyone, let's talk a little bit about land and improvements to that land. So land is unique among capital assets, and by that I mean property, plant, and equipment, and the fact that it never depreciates. If you have a car, it's going to lose value. If you have a computer, it's going to lose value. If you have even a storefront, over time it's going to get old and it's going to lose value. Land never loses value. In fact, it appreciates. It goes up in value because that land is always a plot that is there for your use with whatever you want to do with it. When you purchase land, you get to include in the historical cost of that land, the price that you put it on the books for, every cost to acquire it and to ready it for use. What do I mean by that? Well, the purchase price gets to get included. Surveying and legal fees, if you want to bring someone in to make sure that it is the exact acreage that you're presuming that you're buying, surveying fee, you can include that in the cost of land. Legal fee to make sure that the person you're buying from actually has title to that land, same thing. If you have to pay off any old property taxes or other liens and encumbrances on the land, that's a necessary cost to acquire that land and ready it for use, which means you can include that in the historical cost of land. Land clearing costs, if there's a bunch of trees on there and you can't build the building in the middle of the trees and you have to take them down, you get to include that in the cost of land as long as you do it at the time that you are acquiring the land and readying it for use. Also, if there's a building there and you don't want the building on the land, say you want to build a golf course and there's an old factory there and you don't want the factory, removing it is a cost that's necessary to ready it for your use. So that gets to get included in the cost of land as well. If you have land and you make a permanent enhancement to the land, so you build something like a pond or you plant redwood trees, that is a permanent enhancement to the land. You get to add the cost of that to the cost of the land on your books because you are permanently altering land, and that alteration you're making is not going to depreciate over time, so it gets to go right into the cost of land. There are, however, things that you can do to a piece of property that aren't going to last forever. These are your temporary additions, and we're going to classify them as land improvements. They are things which will deteriorate over time. So some temporary additions to a piece of property like fencing, paving, sprinkler systems, lighting, and signage, all of these things won't last for forever. We can't put them in the cost of land because they will depreciate, and we can't have extra costs added to the land when we know the value is going to go away from part of it, these temporary additions. So all of these get classified as a different asset called land improvements. The journal entry for acquiring land will say that on March 1st, Edison Grocery is going to purchase in cash a piece of land for $60,000. In addition to the cost of the property, they're going to pay $4,000 worth of delinquent taxes that were owed on the property before they bought it, a $1,000 survey fee to make sure it's the proper acreage, and $15,000 to have an old building removed from the property. What's the journal entry? Well, what are we acquiring? How are we paying for it? We're buying land and we're paying in cash. They are both assets, and our land on our books is going to increase because we're buying more land. We're handing over cash, so that's going to decrease, which means that land as an asset going up is going to be our debit, and cash as an asset going down is going to be our credit. How much are we going to debit land for? All of these costs, besides the purchase price on there, are necessary costs to ready it for use. We have to pay off the property taxes to get ownership. We're paying a survey fee to make sure it is the size that we need. We are getting rid of a building that we do not want because we want that land for another purpose. They're all necessary costs that we're going to need for the way we intend to use this land. So we get to add them all into the cost of land. So we're going to put it on the books for $80,000, $6,000 plus $1,000 plus $4,000 plus $15,000. Also the amount of cash that we're handing over when we purchase land and pay the associated costs. In this next entry, Edison Grocery is going to be paying to make improvements to the land that they had previously purchased. They're going to spend $5,000 to have a fence constructed around the property. They're going to spend $3,000 to put a walkway into the property and $1,000 for lighting to surround that walkway. Paying for all of these costs in cash. Well, that fence is going to weather with time. It's not going to last forever, so we can't put it into land because any cost that goes into land is assuming that it's not going to depreciate. Pay walkway, same thing. It's going to chip, it's going to break. The lighting, it's not going to last for forever. So none of these things can get included in the cost of land because they're not permanent additions. Therefore, we have to classify them as land improvements. We are paying in cash. Both of these things are assets, and our land improvements count is going to increase because we're spending more money to improve the land, while our cash is going to decrease, and therefore land improvements is our debit and cash is our credit. For how much? Just the sum of those three numbers, which is $9,000. So that's the big takeaway from anything to do with land. If it is a cost that permanently enhances the land, you can put it right into the historical cost or the carrying value of land on your books. If it's something that you were making, even if it makes the land look nice, that's going to break down with time, that's going to lose value over time, you can't put it into the cost of land. You have to record it in a separate asset account called land improvements.